For centuries, human beings have sought and conveyed the greatest stories, tales, and legends. It is natural for one to educate and to grow. One day, with all the digital tools finally available, man will create the ultimate storytelling device. That day is now, for hence is born the Story Seekers.
Efficiency is deceptive, my friend, because it's bullshit. You know, if they say that a refrigerator runs more efficiently, they're not fucking going into the amount of destruction that was used to create that fucking refrigerator.
Right. Efficiency operates naturally, period. When it's unnatural.
What do you mean by that? Efficiency operates naturally.
Imodoye.
Imodoye.
Yeah. Imodoye.
Imodoye.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the rest?
That's it.
Imadoye. It's like a sing-song.
Yeah. Imodoye.
Do it again.
Imodoye.
Imodoye.
Yeah. Imodoye.
Imodoye.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that?
Yeah.
And it means again?
When knowledge becomes understood.
When knowledge becomes understood. Say it another way.
When you understand.
The moment when you reach clarity.
Yeah, clarity.
Clarity.
Yeah.
When you reach clarity.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Say it again.
When you reach clarity.
No, say the word.
Imodoye. Imodoye.
When you reach clarity.
Yeah.
The Story Seekers.
Oh, one of the organizations that you could probably go for is Foster Care Counts, which is based here in Los Angeles, and it was started by a very wealthy family whose wife was interested in supporting it. And they do all sorts of wonderful things, from exhibits to products to everything related to the foster system for children that have emancipated, as well as children that are looking for foster parents and children that are in transition, going in and out of the courts for placement. So that's beneficial to me because I grew up in the foster care system. I grew up in group homes.
You did?
Yeah, total orphan. So it's interesting to me to hear if you have ideas as a business and you want to produce it for the benefit of people, because that seems to be the way that things are these days, and that's the way the business essentially is going, which is wonderful. It has to have a good intention, and what you're thinking about has the ultimate goal of a good intention by telling stories. And every single foster child has a story.
Oh my God.
The Story Seekers.
The man who sold fruits and vegetables, he had a trunk on his head with bananas and fruits and things. And this would be his call. Singapore, kela is banana, papaya is the same word in English, and lal muri is red radish. So his call was, Singapore, kela, papaya, lal muri. So
Do it again.
Singapore, kela, papaya, lal muri. So that was his call. And then, of course, there's a rickshaw man, and he would ring a bell, and the rickshaw walla. So he didn't have a call, he just rang his bell as he took the rickshaw along the road. Salt is nimak, and badam is nuts, but he wouldn't say it in Hindi, he would say it in English. He would sell nuts in a paper cone, and he'd make a paper cone, and in it he'd put some nuts. So he would go around, salty almond, salty almond. That was his call, you know. You know.
The Story Seekers.
I think I was 14 or 15. My father, besides being a diplomat at that time, was a writer, an author. He had already published a book of short stories, and he was writing. He was doing all the writing and research on a book in Spanish, not in English, not in Hebrew, in Spanish, because we lived in Mexico, and he loved languages. So he invited, as part of his job and as part of his hobby, he invited a scholar and his family. They came from Portola, California, Portola Valley, California, which is east of the Bay, right? You've been there? It's anyway. So, and the man is a Swedish man, not Jewish, and his family is all blonde, blue eyes. Usually not my type, but at age 14, 15, there is no type. She looked like a taller and thinner version of Haley Mills. You know that? That's what came up to my mind when I saw her, you know.
That's fun, huh? Did you take her out? What did you do? Take her out right away, or?
Well, at 14 or 15, I didn't have a driver's license, and so it was, I showed her around Mexico City, taking bus rides, train rides, walking. So I showed her as much of the area, the neighborhoods around my neighborhood in Mexico City.
Did you kiss her?
I don't remember.
You don't know if you kissed her?
I can't remember.
It can happen.
I probably didn't. I think I kissed her.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
sneak out of here.
You gotta go, man.
I'm gonna go.
The Story Seekers.
I've been thinking, I think it was about 1987 or 88. I was living in San Diego. I had a 1970 four-door crew cab Dodge pickup truck with a big camper shell on the back, and painted Mexican bathroom turquoise. Fully outfitted and rigged, guitars, surfboards, clothing. I drove to the Bay Area, to Shoreline Amphitheater, to see the Grateful Dead at a 3-day show. Parked in the middle of the parking lot, got there early, probably one of the earliest I'd ever been to a show. Said, well, damn it, I'm just gonna start selling weed right now. So I had a kilo of Mexican that I sitting on the bed in the back of the truck, broke it up into an ounce worth of eighths and quarters in baggies, put them in my pocket, started walking around. There weren't that many people there, but hell, I'd sold weed at Grateful Dead shows all my life. And the first people that wanted some were a couple in tie-dyes. Guy had longer hair than I did. They were both in tie-dyes, lovely looking folks. All of a sudden, they took the weed, maybe an eighth, and something felt funny, and I felt the presence, and there were these big bouncers standing all around me all of a sudden. And I had a drum with me, and all of a sudden I was starting to feel a little, my ass was tightening up, and oh shit. Long story short, I was the first bust of the 3-day show.
Oh, Jesus.
They took me a few miles away to a construction shack. I was the first person, so they were still setting up their headquarters, maybe 2 miles away, if I remember right. And so first these bouncers came up, then the cops came up. They put me in the back of a car. They left, somehow my window was rolled down and my hands were behind my back in cuffs. There were 2 cops in front of me. They had one of my bags, but I had to get rid of all those bags in the back, in my pocket. I thought about stuffing them down the seat of the car. I thought, now they'll know it was me. Whatever, I'm not sure why, but my window's open. So I grabbed all those bags in my hands.
You had handcuffs.
I had handcuffs on and watched the cop in the passenger side while one eye was on the mirror to see where the driver cop was looking, and waited for the exact right moment. I had to keep my eye on both, and lunged up and went like that and threw them out the window. Okay? They all went out the window except for one. And I don't know if the cops heard a sound, something clicked in the cops, because you heard a little as one baggie got blown back in the car. And suddenly my window went up. Interesting. It just triggered something with those cops. So they take me to this shack. All these long-haired narcs are preparing the shack for the big weekend of Bus at the Dead show. A bunch of fucking long-haired narcs. I was giving them a bunch of shit, saying, I know you guys smoke it, and what are you guys doing this for? Anyway, I had the one baggie left. I was sitting in a chair. This time I had to watch about 15 people to wait for one moment when I could stuff that thing in some big 6-inch PVC tubing behind me. There was a wall of that stuff. Wow. So, boom, I have nothing left on me. Shoreline Amphitheater is in Santa Clara, which is rich and Republican. So rather than get 3 days, even in those days, everyone said it probably would have been 3 days in San Francisco or Santa Cruz. I got a month of jail time. I immediately go to jail from there. I'm in there for 2 weeks. Meanwhile, I'm talking to my girlfriend on the phone. You need to go find my truck. It's probably towed away. Where is it? She's phoning from San Diego all over the place trying to find my truck. Can't find any impound yard, any police place, anywhere that has my truck. After I'm supposed to serve a month, but after 2 weeks, I bailed myself out to get some affairs in order. My girlfriend flies up. We just thought, after looking at all these impound yards, let's go back to Shoreline. We get to Shoreline. There, in the middle of an empty parking lot that hosted thousands and thousands of deadheads, is my turquoise truck with the tailgate down, the camper door closed but unlocked, and still most of a kilo spread out on the bed. Surfboards, guitars, everything. Been sitting there for 2 weeks. That was amazing in of itself. As a follow-up, I hiked 10 miles into a wilderness surf spot with a surfboard and a backpack on, surfed for 4 days or so, 5 days, retrieved the kayak that I had left in there after paddling in the middle of the winter and then hurting my back. I had to leave the kayak on the beach. Paddled the kayak out to Shelter Cove, which was a nice, fun summertime activity, nice and sunny. And had a nice 2 weeks, surfed as much as possible, checked myself in for my last 2 weeks of jail time.
You could do that?
Yeah, you could bail yourself out, but you still have to do your time eventually. So that's what I did. And that's pretty much that story. But in jail, I met all kinds of characters. And I even took notes, which I'm not sure where they are now. But the stories in jail were incredible. And that will be for our next interview.
The Story Seekers.
The nature of the group determines the agreement given to the value.
Well, the nature of the group, yes.
Yeah.
But I was thinking more in terms of a varied many groups,
Right.
each different, completely different, varied culturally.
Right. No matter what it is, as long as there's a group, they become one. So there's a gallery owners that owns this property that they got from the artist, right? So that gallery gives agreements to the art, and now the individual observer gives value. But now it gets to a complicated state where, because of the nature of the group,
Well, in a way, what happens is this. It's like a living organism. The group is a living organism, and on its own, it comes to its highest person, and that individual person at the end is the one who determines the value in relation to
the group.
To the group. Yeah, the group is, well...
Yeah, because it's looking at the
But it always comes back to the individual, because it's the person who owns it. The final entity who owns the art is the individual.
Right.
So it comes
you
again to agreement between one individual. What happens is this, is that in the group, there's a large group, it becomes a filtration system to find the real person who once again becomes the person who makes the offer and gets the agreement.
Let's get it.
All that's what the buying market is to find the one person that feels that it has the highest value.
So that person that's going to has to also give agreements to the value of the new observer. So it's going to repeat the same pace with a different face.
I'm going to roll a hemp cigarette.
Right. So at that stage, you still. So basically, what we're trying to say is like, wherever you can recognize the fundamental of an exchange, you can always see what is true value and what is not.
Say that again, please.
The moment you can observe the fundamental of an exchange, the basis of an exchange, the moment you can observe it,
right,
you've identified all basis of exchange right there.
Right. You find the fundamentals.
Right. You've identified. So anywhere you take that, what you've observed to, and anywhere you see an exchange happen and doesn't have that, there is a malign
situation. Yeah.
So looking at art, when you see art, when you set up a gallery and you create that environment, what you really observe, and this is one of the reasons I was attracted to the art, was you're constantly observing the fundamental, the basis of an exchange.
For centuries, human beings have sought and conveyed the greatest stories, tales, and legends. It is natural for one to educate and to grow. One day, with all the digital tools finally available, man will create the ultimate storytelling device. That day is now, for hence is born the Story Seekers.